I'm gonna drink some coffee. Make sure you can catch all the sound effects. Will I talk louder? Possibly not. I might just talk at this volume most likely.
You don't have to.
Because I got the microphone, so I don't have to be loud.
Right.
It's beautiful. I'm calling on angels. And would you like to open up in prayer for me, for us, for we?
I'd like to call in all the powers from the north, the south, the east, the west, the sun and the moon, the stars, the galaxies above, all the plants, all the living beings. Calling upon you today to help us to remind ourselves of who we are and our interconnectedness. Allow us to have peace running through us and activating the skills that ignite it in ourselves and in others. Let our truth be shared. Thank you, God. Of the breath of our air in our lungs, ignite our blood. That all of our systems will be running with all that there is, reminding that all there is now. Let us grow, let us be well as well. So it is.
And so it is. Spoken as it is stated, so it is done. That was beautiful, thank you.
Good morning, Andrew. I'm going to start off with just giving me a little background about yourself, who you are, how you got to this life.
All right, the whole story all at once, perfect. Well, do you want me to look in the camera or no? Does it look at you? All right, bet. I started out in Massachusetts, or Rhode Island, right there on the line. Up in New England, July 26, 1995. From my perspective, that is when reality started, and since then it has always revolved around me. Just kidding. No, not true, but yeah. I grew up in church, so I was raised in a Pentecostal, very conservative, Bible-based household. At least that was the messaging, right? That was like, I went to church, I learned the Bible, like did all the Bible quizzing, got it embedded into me. But and then it was interesting to have that and have like such a strong like right and wrong and what you must do, and then mixed with like going home and watching humans seek to implement that information. That was always a fun thing to observe on what we believe, and we hold so strongly to what we believe, and then, you know, there's always a process of integration. But so I grew up in church. That was pretty much my life, to be honest with you. Everything I did like was through church. If I went on trips, it was more or less, it was either with like friends and family from the church, or it was a missions trip, or it was a youth group thing. All of the extracurricular things I did were like music, and that was so that I could play at church. Was singing, that was so I could sing at church. It was at this point, I'm super grateful for such a strong sense of community that I was able to be involved in and learn like the ins and outs of. Like a community that very much viewed itself to be separate from the rest of the world, right? Like totally looked to live by we are in the world but not of it. So I did learn a lot of beautiful things from church. So I went to a private school my whole life, Christian school. So like even that was still keeping the same coding, you know. Actually, the school I went to, the elementary school, was Eastgate Christian Academy. So for me, that's fascinating, because then when I went and studied later on in life, like magic and the occult, like the East Gate, and there being like priests that are facing towards the east is always a theme that comes up for different reasons. You can look into that if you're interested. And it was the organization that ran the school was Master Builder Ministries. So when I go back and look, from day one, I was being raised to be a wizard, essentially. You know? So I guess it makes sense looking back at it.
All right.
Is it okay if I keep drinking my coffee?
Yeah.
All right.
But just do me a favor, don't lean, because every time you lean, I get that big blot of sun that I have behind
Gotcha.
me right now.
Perfect. I stay in place.
Yeah. Just move yourself in closer to you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, I'm leaning. Okay,
like
cool.
Here to here. All right. Do you feel like? What do you feel is the difference between church and just traditional fellowship?
The difference between church and traditional fellowship. Interesting question. So, traditional fellowship is just what, more or less friends and family coming together to share love and hang out with each other, right? And church, I think the only real difference between church and fellowship ideally is the concept of the cross, right? The vertical represents like your connection with like the creator, the source of the reality, or fucking free energy, whatever that is. And the horizontal is the connection between like your fellow beings, right? And so in the Bible, the Jesus boils everything down. They're like just asking it because everything he said was confusing to everybody. So like he finally boils it down to like, all right, two things that are really important. Like there's two commandments. Like just love your God, you know, with everything. Your heart, your soul, your mind, your body. Infuse that into every single fiber of your being. And then the second commandment, and the riddle there is, it's pretty much the same as the first, is love your neighbors as yourself. So like infuse yourself with all of the highest vibrations you possibly can on every level, and then share that shit to the ends of the world. That's the whole purpose. So I think the difference between regular fellowship and church is really not much of a difference, other than at church, the intention is also to have the fellowship with your direct source of like life, so that you even have more love and energy to share with your friends and family that you're fellowshipping with. So that'd be my difference, I think. Everybody comes, you know, doctrines and rules and shit, things go crazy from there, but I think that's the basis of it.
All right, now we're gonna jump way forward in time to coming here. What do you feel your purpose is in this moment?
My purpose in this moment now, right here, right now, is to be fully present. And what that means to me is to be in constant communication with my creator at this point. The relationship I have inside of me, the communications I have with what I feel is the source of my reality. It does speak to me. It gives me information. It gives me perspective. It gives me peace. Everything I possibly need at any moment is right there, accessible right inside of me. And so non-stop interaction with that is really like my main focus right now. And then just being fully present, it's interesting because it's being fully present with that, like praying without ceasing. However, there's also a reality experience happening at the same time. So it's being present with both. And that's literally it. Just hearing what the present moment is saying, what it wants from me, and just showing up and being the fullest version and the most exciting version of me I can possibly be in that moment. And so as I do that, interestingly enough, like the experience itself almost becomes that voice, right? So it's like I'm right at this point, like it's crazy. Sometimes I do live in a world of separation every so often, where like I feel like I'm talking to other people, but then also like it starts to get wild where I just am talking to myself almost. Like I've like talking to the highest version of myself through everything. And why that's the most important? Well, I guess it goes back to the community and the fellowship and the sense of community thing. The biggest opportunity for growth that I see in the human marketplace in our world today is having a shared vision, having something, some sort of mission, vision, purpose, challenge, something that we all agree on that unites us, right? And so I'm looking to create a space or hold space for a space to develop that everybody can be a part of. Like the only exclusiveness to the living dream is that it's fully inclusive.
All right. You mentioned the living dream. So, if you're getting people to want to come to the Creator House and be a part of your living dream, how would you explain what the living dream is?
So I always like to start with a quote by John Lennon because he says it incredibly. He says, a dream you dream alone is just a dream, but the dream we dream together is reality, right? So that woke me up personally to realizing that, yes, I've heard, and it almost seems like a crazy concept, that we can come together as humans and we can like co-create a reality together. You know, we can like all put our opinions in and create a win-win-win situation for all of us, that we don't all have to be the same person or adopt the same daily practice and cultural patterns. That's fine. But we can, at least on a basic foundational level, recognize the oneness to be able to like live in some sort of harmony, right? Harmony is like a musical term, or at least that's how I perceive it, that allows for all of the different sounds. It celebrates the differences in a way that still creates one unified experience that you can absorb at once, right? And that you can consume, and that moves you in a beautiful way. Trying to remember what the question was, but okay. Then I realized, especially after hearing that quote from John Lennon, we're already doing that, right? Like whether we want to or not, like agree with it or believe it, the reality experience that we're currently having is a co-creation that is made up of every single one of our individual realities projected out into this shared space that creates this. So that's a really important thing to understand, because we're all running around pointing fingers at shit outside of us that, and you know, maybe not everybody. If you're not, fantastic, I love that. But I come across a lot of beings who have a lot of problems with the reality that they live in, and they're not the solution in their perspective, right? Like it's someone else has created the bad problem, so it's someone else's job to fucking fix it. But that's not the case. Like, so I'm almost not looking for people specifically or to attract certain people to my direct creator house, as much as I'm looking to wake up the understanding in the collective mind that Earth is our creator house, and we're all already living together in it, creating together. So to the extent that we can realize that is to the extent that we can do that in a more effective and efficient manner that serves all of us. There is no them. There is no 1% fucking outside of us that runs everything and is the big bad guy and like also the one that needs to solve all the problems, even though we don't trust them anyway, so we're not going to trust any solution they provide. But I don't want to think about it more than just to fucking complain. It's like, that's not a reality. Like, that doesn't even, think about it for 2 seconds. It doesn't make any sense. It's just us. We're all that we have. We're here together. We're either ripping ourselves apart or bringing ourselves together. What do we want to do, fam? That's it. That's the whole point.
All right. So, what is your role in the Creator House?
I believe, I feel, it is my experience that there is a single source to this entire reality experience, and that source can be found in any single individual unit or component that makes up this experience. And so in this reality that, you know, is our creator house, if I perceive the number one challenge to be division only, because differences are beautiful. I'm not looking to get rid of any differences. I want differences to be able to flourish and be appreciated. But if we're coming from division only and not recognizing the latent oneness that vibrates everywhere, we're going to, the project will come to an end, right? So, this human project. So, so if I perceive that to be the problem, then okay, what's the solution to that? I can only tap into the oneness and be present with it now. It's almost like there's multiple dimensions going on at the same time, right? That people are existing in. And so at one point, I perceived that to be the problem, right? I sat inside of myself and said, what's the biggest problem that I perceive to be on the planet? Like, what is the biggest challenge? And so that, like, I can think of a solution. So I still lived in that world of separation almost, right? Of, shit, we're still in this big bad world. Everything outside of me seems really dark and scary, but I also know on some level it's a reflection of what's inside of me. So how come everywhere I look it's like evil, you know? And then I realized the importance of doing the work of, okay, I need to feel into this other reality, this oneness, and so that I can come back to this world and like build to that place and like, you know what I'm saying? Like I can do all the work required to get to that state, you know? And then there's no work, then I realized there's no work to be done to get to the state other than make the decision that you're gonna vibrate in oneness. And so like, that was a challenge to comprehend in and of itself, because obviously the human mind, especially the one in the world of duality, the survival world that I, snapped from essentially into oneness, there's still all this like, no, like it couldn't possibly just be a decision away. There's no such thing as instant miracles. Like there's got to be all this work. Like I have to go like weed out these bad guys and like, you know what I'm saying? We got to end this human trafficking and we got to do this and we got to do all that. And like, then we can start to maybe like have a world that's like, we can start to move towards oneness, or like, it just, the mind did not want to comprehend that I can just choose love. So maybe it's too simple, and maybe, I don't know if people are looking for more from me, but I still experience fear in the world at large. So I really feel like my highest leverage role is to choose love now, always, and be fully present with where life has me now, all times. And that's it. My mind hates that answer. My mind fucking hates that answer, even as I say it. It wants a plan for the future. It wants to know where we're going and what it fucking looks like. And it wants to study its past and why all of its problems in its life are there. But it's literally just choosing to be here now in love as fully as possible. That's my highest leverage role in the living dream.
All right. Do you think that your experiences will help to be able to... Okay. Let me rephrase the question. All right. When you spoke about Jesus earlier, you spoke about him teaching about compassion through religion.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like people invoke Jesus but don't live his principles? Or do you feel like they only take part of it and then forget the rest?
It's very interesting what we've done with Jesus. It is a fascinating thing, because to me, Jesus is a template, right? It was a template of what a complete, fully realized, fully actualized human would look like, And so, number one, it served as a visual template, as like a story, an experienceable story of like, okay, I can learn from this and begin to integrate some of these things into my reality. And also, we understand now that like your thoughts and what you focus your attention on dictates like your genes, your like genetic coding, because your cells are always dying and being reborn constantly, like trillions every moment. So what you focus your attention on dictates literally the new genetics that are written in every second. So the fact that also this character is able to come down to the physical plane and like have had that physical embodied experience, like the grace in that is that it's now an available template to literally genetically call on. So like in my perspective, the beauty of like having Jesus as a character that you can call on and like become a new creation in Christ, as the Bible says, in every moment, it like you can become a fully actualized being. Like that's the goal. The goal is to like, even of Christianity, like the goal is to be like calling Christ, allow Christ to be alive in you, to essentially allow your vessel to be a puppet for Christ on the planet. And in doing so, you build such a spiritual body for yourself that when you die, you don't just die, you now have built a vehicle that allows you to spiritualize and continue, your consciousness to continue in a beautiful space going forward. And even that's almost a limitation. I feel like you can literally just call and like enter into this eternal space that we're looking to get to after we die. But like, think about it for a second. If after you die, you have eternal life either way, can we just recognize that right now, that means we're eternal beings? You know what I'm saying? If I'm gonna die and eternally live in hell or eternally live in heaven, I think that means I'm probably have always been eternally living in heaven or hell. And then I just learned that I can snap back and forth. So, I don't know, there's so much beauty in what Jesus brought to the table, and like even what we have like remembered and wrote down and scribed. And then yeah, it's almost like the actions seem to be like, instead, I don't know, like instead we like built this like blood sacrifice like death cult almost around him, and like use that to create a lot of death and destruction. You know what I'm saying? In reality, it's very interesting what we do with that information. But yeah, I don't think it's intentional. I think people are doing the best they can always with what they have in the moment, and that is how we have perceived that information up to this point.
This is going to be probably the last question for today for you. With the growth in your life, do you feel that where you are now, how do you feel what you're doing now is different from how you were raised?
Interesting. So identify the differences. Okay.
Just the matter of fact, don't differentiate it. Make it similar. What do you feel like is similar from what you were raised as to what you are trying to accomplish as an adult?
Well, as I was raised, I'll start with the differences. I think the difference now is my whole life I've been on like passive data collection almost, to where I was taking in everyone's information and I was reflecting it back to them in an effective manner, to where I'm able to tell everybody what they want to hear, and I know what they want to hear the most, so then I can play that character, absolutely, regardless of if it felt true to me inside. And the difference now is that I broke myself. I can only live like fully in what truthfully is the expression of the moment coming from my heart. So that's the difference. The similarity is that, and I don't know that there's a lot of people in my past that probably would not think I'm doing the same thing, you know what I'm saying? That, you know, I'm probably living in hell and backslidden and all these things, you know, that's an interesting thing. But everyone always wanted me to be a pastor. Everyone always wanted me on the platform. Everyone always wanted me to be singing and making music and worshiping. And everyone always wanted me. At a very young age, my youth pastor like was just like, you know, you're a very influential, like powerful being, and you're either going to bring a lot of people to God or you're going to pull a lot of people away from God. And so just always know that. So, you know what I'm saying? Be like, you know, honest, truthful with yourself about where you're at energetically in any moment. So I almost don't think I'm doing anything different from what everybody like always wanted me to do. I think they were pretty on point with like how I was going to show up going forward. And it is almost, it's for me personally, like people, the hardest work in the world, the Science of Getting Rich says the hardest work in the world is to see truth and to feel into truth regardless of appearances. Like, I understand that people who live in a world of appearances probably look at me like a ball of chaos and would never agree that I'm consistently doing one thing, which is fine. But in my internal experience, it's almost like I've always been on the same mission, just doing one thing, you know? And it can be boiled down to the two/same thing that Jesus says of love, you know? Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for this morning sit down. We'll, you know, do this again in a couple weeks to see how you feel the growth has become in the house. Because right now we're just.
It's an interesting point in time. It is a very interesting point in time.
So, yeah. Thank you.
All right, cool. Thank you.